Hey, keep it over here, dog.
Street fights can be brutal, but most times, these fighters really have no idea what they're doing. They are mostly just aggressive without an actual plan, and that's not the best way to approach fights. If I tell you that training just a couple of months in BJJ could save your life if you're being attacked by someone, would you do it? Some people insist on fighting even though they have no experience whatsoever in martial arts. Let's see what these fighters could have done differently to win. In our first clip, we see a street fight between two men, both of them cautiously maneuvering around each other and trying to catch the other with a punch. It's more like watching two poorly trained amateur boxers. Well, at least they both know how to duck and evade a punch. But what would a trained BJJ fighter do differently? Well, the first thing he would do is to close the distance between them. BJJ is a pretty dangerous martial art, but it's only effective when you manage to grab your opponent. The best time to do this is to wait for a punch. Protect yourself with your heads, duck down, and go for a double leg takedown. Then proceed to mount your opponent and control his head and arms.
Underneath is like kind of cross. How you're gonna bring the arm up to set up the arm triangle.
Top of him? Yeah, exactly. And you can hear Shane's voice go up, and that means we're putting a lot of pressure. This is MMA. I can start framing on his face. I can start punching. I can bridge up with my hand here and start punching down as well.
Once that's done, you can then choose what technique you are most good at to lock and wear out your opponent, forcing him to use all his strength while you maintain your tight grip. If you want to take a completely different route, just snap his head down, right into a headlock position, and then finish him with a guillotine.
If I do this one, I usually do this one elbow deep. I'm not doing a short one here. A lot of different guillotine versions. It's like a rear naked choke to his head. My body comes out the way my choking hand's pointing.
Here, a street fighter and a boxer go at each other. The street fighter actually attempts to do what a trained BJJ fighter would have done, but he gets it all wrong. He closes the gap between the both of them, grabs the boxer and tries to use his legs to trip the boxer to the floor, but he lacks the technique.
You'll see guys stand a little bit more of an angle. There you go. You'll see some guys do it from here where they'll just punch to make that foot light.
Instead, he loses his balance and lands on the floor while the boxer gets on top of him. He, however, manages to protect himself from the assault of punches thrown at him by the boxer. You will observe that even though the boxer is on top of him and throwing punches, none lands on its intended target, although one nearly catches his face. In such a situation, that's exactly what a BJJ fighter would do.
So we start to think that MMA is a real fight, which is not, and then you start to make the connection that headbutts don't exist in real fights. Then you get in a real fight, guy freaking cracks your orbital structure, and you're so disrupted, now you're getting punched in the face, you're knocked out, you lose the fight. Look at the V, manage it on the way down. So from stage 2, as you let someone in, watch, make the V, and then collect the head and pull it down.
Make sure that none of those deadly blows lands on his face. But one thing a trained BJJ athlete will do differently is to search for opportunities to lock his opponent. Fortunately for our street fighter, the opportunity to land an armbar or a triangle choke presents itself, but he lacks the skill to effect the technique. We can see him try to grab his opponent's neck, but he is unsuccessful in his attempt. Eventually, they both get back on their feet. Another mistake a grappler wouldn't make. As a grappler, use the mat, or in this case the floor, to your advantage. While on their feet, the opportunity for a single leg presents itself to the street fighter as he holds his opponent's leg, but he doesn't take advantage of it. Often, when it comes to street fights, many go in with the mentality of boxers. They just want to catch their opponent with a powerful blow that knocks them out. That's exactly what happens here. But this time, they are not trained boxers, and they both do not know how to throw a punch. In fact, it looks more like a slapping contest rather than a street fight. And the consequence of that is that they both tire out easily. In less than 2 minutes, you can see that they have both run out of breath. A BJJ fighter wouldn't do that. BJJ training will teach you to breathe properly and how to be patient, so you wouldn't be unnecessarily aggressive, wasting energy you should have conserved.
or if I hold something, I need maximum strength, so I have to fill up my lungs. And if I hold it, I will stop. And that cannot happen. So in order for me to, I keep my lungs full, but I keep using full power because I never empty it up.
As you can see, the guy with the shirt looks like he has been fighting for up to 30 minutes, when in reality, it's been less than 2. He has expended too much energy trying to land a punch, even though a trained eye knows that's not how to punch. For a trained grappler, he would instead seek to grab a hold of the opponent in such a manner he can't use his hands. A fighter who only relies on strength and throwing punches would be rendered useless when his hands have been controlled. At one point in the fight, the fighter has a chance to execute a headlock.
I instantly want to go into chin strap and get this control right behind the tricep. Head down, shoulder on the same side as my strangle arm, goes in between my partner's shoulder blades.
But although it seems like he recognized the opportunity, he had no idea what he was doing, and he let his opponent slip. Well, you don't want to allow a trained grappler such an opportunity. That would definitely be the end of the fight, and you would have no choice than to tap out, or suffer a severe injury if you are unable to break the lock. And we don't expect untrained people to know how to escape a lock. One thing about this fight is, nobody trained in any form of martial arts fights like this. From their stance to how scattered and unorganized they both are, we can tell that they have no martial art experience. Both fighters are just launching at each other with no clear plan. They also don't even try to defend themselves from their opponent's punches. You can see how exposed their faces are, and as expected, they both land direct punches at each other, only that their blows are so weak, they are almost totally useless. A trained BJJ fighter wouldn't do such. He would take great care to prevent direct blows hitting his face. He wouldn't use all his energy and tire out quickly, swinging his hands unnecessarily while attempting to punch. He would also want the fight to get to the ground as quickly as possible. So he would close the gap and trip his opponent with his leg. On the ground, an amateur would feel very uncomfortable while the BJJ guy has total control of the fight because it's now in his comfort zone. He can then mount his opponent and choke him until he submits. We don't encourage anyone to get into a street fight as they can be dangerous, but getting trained in martial arts can really come in handy because you never know the kind of situation you will find yourself in. Someone can attack you anytime. It is your responsibility to be able to defend yourself. It's simple, guys. Just train any martial art, but do it. Thanks for watching.